Hi, this is Dan Henk, and welcome to another edition of the Soul Sessions. Today, my guest is Jonathan Butcher. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
All right, awesome, man. All right, so let's talk about what you got going on.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm an extreme horror author. Well, most of my stuff is extreme. I'm going to be writing something less so later this year, but I've got an upcoming release called Motel Sticks later this month, which I wrote with my wife, whose pen name is Michelle von Eschen. And it's about an imagined near future in America where the recreational use of corpses has been legalized, and it takes place at the first ever motel slash brothel for dead bodies.
Okay. The corpses, do they become animated anyway, like kind of like a Fido says sort of zombie? No?
No, so it's very much based in like the real world. There's nothing supernatural in this one. My wife had the idea after we did a different podcast. In fact, I did a different podcast about 2.5 years ago where we watched Necromantic. It was a podcast with John Wayne Comunelli and Christopher Triana, and we were talking about German horror. And my wife and I watched that lovely film about necrophilia together, and that started the idea in her mind, and we collaborated over the space of like 2 years, putting it together. So no, the actual the plot of it is that yeah, it's been legal for like a year and a half, 2 years in the States, and Ellis, our main character, his wife passed away very recently, and donated her body to the eponymous Motel Sticks, and he is not happy, and he goes on a secret mission to reclaim that body before it is tainted forever, essentially, and used by the
What's a Motel 6
Motel Sticks is the motel
or 6?
slash
Yeah.
brothel, yeah, where people can go along and stay, and essentially pay to use donated bodies. It's all consensual, so it's not like they're going around killing people and dragging them to the motel.
Well, but it's
People
not consensual for the dead body because the dead body gets basically fucked by whoever goes to the hotel.
Yeah, but those people have donated it while they were still alive. They signed away the rights to their body so that they could then be used after they have passed away. And there's a very strict contract that they can, say that I'm fine with this happening to my body, but I'm not fine with that. And
Wow.
then upon their death, their family gets paid a certain amount of money, and then their body is delivered to the motel rather than cremated or buried.
So did she sign this contract and he doesn't approve of it?
Yes, and that's all I can say on that front.
Well, no spoilers, but yeah. So like they didn't actually steal it, or there might be who knows what tomfoolery went on, but it's like you know, yeah, no, that's I don't want to add any more because I don't want you to give away plot elements. But yeah, no, it's an interesting premise. And you
One thing
say
I would just quickly like to add, if it's okay, there's actually a website for Motel Sticks, which my wife built from the ground up. So that's motelsticks.com. And it has got all of the details on how to donate your body if you want. It talks about what cocktails are available in the motel lounge, and yeah, it's very, very cool.
Yeah, nice. So what there's a website basically donated to the book, but it's kind of like everything's made up. So like you have like you enter the imaginary world of the website.
I'm not going to use the word imaginary, but yeah, absolutely. You can go there, you can book
The
a room, you can see what's
imaginary.
available. Yeah, yeah. People seem to be really enjoying that side of it as well. So it's amazing that my wife can build websites because I don't know anything about that. I can just write words, basically.
What is the website so everyone can go there check it out?
So it's motelsticks.com, and that's Styx sticks, like the river
Okay.
Styx that led into Hades in
You
like Greek
were.
mythology, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Well, if you're watching the video, you're not just listening to it. I'll also have a link up top so people
Oh,
can
cool.
check it out. So I know people hate to do this, but if you said, your story was kind of like something else, like if you like this, you'd like my stuff. What would you say was like kind of like? the closest. Like even not even the story itself, but just the way it's presented.
Um, it's difficult to compare it to something because I guess it's sort of like a horror thriller. When you're following our main character's life, that's quite a thrilling aspect. But then you get to meet the guests and find out what they're doing in their rooms. I guess if you've got the stomach for something like Necromantic, but want it to be, I would say, less boring because that is it's a very explicit, gruesome film. But man, it's dull. If you want an actual exciting story, I guess ours would be the book to check out.
Yeah, I've never seen it. Why is it dull? It's just like a very slow progression of
Yeah,
everything.
it's very art house. So it was, yeah. It's in fact we dedicated the book to the director Jörg Budgereit, I think his name is from Germany. And yeah, while it's about the grossest idea, which is a couple um, basically involve a corpse in their love life. The guy brings a body home, and then almost becomes like a three-way relationship between the three of them. So it's this really gross, and it's quite like the corpse looks horrible in it. It's really vile, but
Yeah, those
man,
fucking
it's just so
Germans. It's like I
slow.
mean, I'm German, so I can say that. The Germans come up with the craziest shit sometimes. But
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a wild film, but it's very, very slow and very art house. Yeah, ours is quite pacey, and I love it. I'm very proud of it.
okay, what's the runtime? Like, how many pages would you say it is?
It's a short novel, so it's about 220 pages, something like that. So about 50,000 words, if that helps.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
I've
is it
written.
good?
Yeah, sorry, I
Uh,
was just going to say I've written novellas as well, so which are much shorter, but I like writing these longer ones, which allow you to have let the story breathe a bit more. In like extreme horror and splatterpunk, which I've tended to write in the past, like it's quite popular to write shorter books. But my wife's a literary horror author, whereas I write pacier sort of things. So it's not straight up splatterpunk or extreme horror. So if you go in there expecting it to just be a disgusting gore fest, you're going to be disappointed. It's much more about the cool ideas and hopefully how well thought out the whole concept is.
right.
So yeah, I like writing the longer pieces where you can let the characters and the themes live and breathe.
Yeah, I feel like that's one thing that's missing with a lot of modern horror. I mean, there are authors who focus on it, but like a lot of people, like they kind of forgot the story. They just want to throw a couple scenes in there, they grab you. And I feel we need more of that, like strong story behind it. Like even if you look at like if we go to pop culture and look at the movies, like Terminator or Alien, they had strong stories. It wasn't just gotcha moments.
Yeah, definitely. Like I grew up, watching the 80s and early 90s movies, and I love all those action-packed ones. But like you say, it was a proper story. I think there's a bit of a trend now, and I am actually massively in favor of it. I think it's wonderful. Now that authors have got the opportunity to just publish themselves, they don't have to go through other publishers, and they can write whatever they like, which puts the control in our hands. And it means that a lot of people who've maybe never put pen to paper or fingers to a keyboard are deciding to see if they want to write something. And it takes years and a lot of dedication to write well structured stories and to be what I would call a good writer. But I think it's brilliant that people who aren't necessarily as experienced can just create whatever scene or set of stories that they like, even if they aren't experienced authors. But it does mean that this trend has changed the extreme horror scene a little bit, where back in the 80s and 90s splatterpunk was like Clive Barker, Richard Lehman, Edward Lee, and people like that. Now there is a little less craft to it, but that's just because we've got so much freedom to produce it ourselves. So there is a bit of a trend where people will focus on trying to write the grossest thing they possibly can, and maybe the story takes the back seat. But I'm not about that. If I write something gross
Yeah,
or
I go
violent,
to a number of author conventions, and a lot of them have a gross out contest. You know,
yeah,
I
I'm
don't go
taking
because
part
like
in a
that's just
KillerCon.
not my thing.
Well, I'm going to KillerCon this year. I'm in the UK, as you can probably tell from my voice.
Oh, I'll see you at
But
KillerCon. Yeah, I'll be there.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah, well, I'm going to be taking part in the Gross Out Con because I've never had the opportunity to try it. So let's
Right.
do it.
Well, I'm not talking shit about it. I'm just saying,
Okay.
people will describe what went on. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of not my thing. Like I'm big into like cosmic horror, like the kind of like HP Lovecraft inspired stuff. Um,
Oh
speaking of
yeah, I
which,
love H.P. Lovecraft.
oh, awesome. Yeah. Speaking of which, I was going to ask you with your novel, how do you approach it? Like, as in, like, H.P. Lovecraft is famous for using a lot of first person, which was very much looked down on, until
Mm.
fairly recently. And kind of part of this, like, boom of independent authors, a lot of them use first person. Some people use it very well, and some people, there's a lot of dross out there, which I think is like the downside. Like, the upside is you can do whatever the fuck you want. But the downside is you have people that, they should be flipping burgers, but instead they're trying to sell you their book.
I wouldn't put it that way, but that's fair, I guess, in some respects. Um, so, are you asking what you know the
I was just asking
the
what your approach
structure of the way
is.
I
Yeah.
write my stories? So, I love both. It depends on the story, what the story requires. So, I'm best known in a very small way for a book called What Good Girls Do. And that the way that that book works is that it is a very close first person perspective. So you see through the two main characters' eyes from beginning to end, and when you're reading the prose, it's you're hearing their thoughts. So one of the characters has been locked in a basement her entire life. She has never seen outside of this room until the day the story takes place. So her vocabulary is really, really limited. She doesn't understand, when she walks up the steps for the first time outside of the basement, she's never experienced carpet before. She doesn't know what any of these things are. So that's a very close first person perspective because I'm trying to show her confusion by showing how little she understands. I don't think that story would work if it was in third person,
Like, it's just
whereas
showing, like,
Motel.
she's like feeling the texture of it and like trying to describe it, but doesn't know that it's like strands of carpet. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So she's seen people. She's not allowed to wear clothes. Yeah, okay, but she's seen people wearing clothes, and she thinks, "Are these floor clothes?" That's how
Yeah.
limited her understanding of the
Yeah, no,
world
that's
is.
clever. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but the most recent one, Motel Sticks, and my book Chocolate Man, they you see those stories through way too many different perspectives for it to work as a first person story. So they're third person. So it very much depends on what the story requires, how I write it. But I love getting inside characters' heads. I'm a big fan of Irvin Welsh. I don't know, he wrote Train Spotting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the way that he
Great
portrays
movie, too, by
characters,
the way.
brilliant film, absolutely love it. Yes, the way that he portrays people's thoughts and their outlooks through very close first-person perspective, I find that really inspirational. But yeah, you're right. If you've got a book that's filled with first-person perspective, but they all just read the same, that's I think that's quite frustrating. So I try very hard not to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I mean one critique, which I think is a very valid critique of first person, is like if it goes on for too long, you're just stuck in one character's head. And after a while that kind of gets like very dry and one dimensional. One thing I've been experimenting with recently is like I have multiple characters and one might be in third person and one might be in first person. It's a little tricky. But
Oh wow! In the same story.
oh yeah, yeah. So like maybe one
Wow.
chapter will be like this character and they're seeing stuff through his eyes in first person, and then another chapter will be a different character, and so you're hearing what he's doing in third person.
Man, that's going to be a challenge to write. I think Christine is the only book that I've ever read that does that switch. And it's so rare that I remember that.
Yeah.
I'd
Well,
like to
I,
read
I
that.
did that in my last novel, The End of the World, and
Hmm.
I'm gonna write a sequel to that. And I was thinking about like kind of continuing the format because I've had feedback from people who are like, oh, feels like you pulled it off here. So hopefully I'm onto something.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It just takes a lot of control to do that well. So I'd be very curious to check that out.
Right. Well, in my teenage years, like I was like super punk rock, like mohawk, leather jacket, all that sort of stuff. So the
Yeah.
character I do in the first person is me in that era, kind of. So kind of,
Okay.
I feel like I kind of know what's going on, and then like the nice thing about third person, you get the omniscient, narrator that can kind of tell you, what's going on around the characters, not just what they see through their eyes. But all right. Well, I know that you don't have very long here, so let's go back to you. So is everything you have on available on Amazon? Is it on Barnes and Nobles?
Yeah, it's well, generally when it's released on Amazon, it appears on Barnes and Noble. But yeah, you can find me on there. So I've got three novels, one of which is the sequel to What Good Girls Do. Like I say, I tend to write quite extreme stuff. I've been nominated for a Splatterpunk Award for my body horror collection, Something
No,
Very
awesome.
Wrong. Um,
Yeah, I believe
but
Aaron Biergard won last year of Lunacy KillerCon.
Did he win the collection?
I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
remember.
not
I
sure.
remember he won something. Yeah, there were a couple people that somebody else won, like for the like lifetime achievement or whatever. But I thought it was awesome. Period. Plus,
Yeah, I
for
can't
some
wait to
reason
go
I
back.
keep bumping into Aaron, and he's a really nice guy.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to meeting some of these people who I've chatted to on podcasts and have messaged and stuff. But because I live in the UK and most of the contemporary splatterpunk scene is in America, but my wife is American and her family lives in Texas, so we've coincided
Oh, cool.
a
Where does she
visit
live
to
in
her family.
Texas?
San Antonio.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's
so
not too far from Austin. Yeah, I lived in Austin for 3 years. Like if you drive
oh,
a car,
cool.
it's
I can't
about an
wait to see the
hour.
place. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we're going to spend just over a week with her family, and then it's KillerCon. So yeah, I can't wait to head along and see what it's like. I've been told it's basically like Wrath James White throws a big party for all of the splatterpunk writers, which sounds fun to me.
Well, he's definitely always there. And like they've divided into like two rooms, like one for the artists and one for more of the authors, and they recombined it back into like one room. But it's always a fun time every time we go. And the thing is, it's like you have some horror conventions that are more like attended by like horror fans, like Monster Media and stuff, and then you have some that are more attended by mainly writers and prospective writers and agents also go through it, and like sometimes agents will go through and they just want a copy of all your books because they want to check you out because hopefully you'll be picked up for the next Netflix series or something, you know but so cons like that, killer cons like that, scarce and cares is kind of a mix of both actually. The World Horror Convention is like so. Yeah, it kind of differs, but yeah, you should have a good time at KillerCon. Um, all
Yeah.
right, so I don't want to keep you here all day because I know you gotta go. You gotta do another podcast. Is there something else you want to bring up and something else you want to mention?
Well, I was going to say that while I'm known generally for writing quite hardcore stuff, I'm really looking forward to after this Motel Sticks' release comes out on June 22nd. I'm going to be writing something a bit more maybe traditional-ish. It's going to be a quieter cosmic horror, and I've got the working title Cold
Oh, I love
Visitor.
cosmic horror. That's my favorite genre.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to getting out of the filth and the muck which I've written in for the last several years and writing something a little bit not wholesome, definitely not wholesome, but a little bit less extreme. So yeah.
Well, probably wholesome is subjective too.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
definitely.
as long as you don't go too far, I mean, it seems like that kind of rules, like don't kill animals. If you kill animals, it's over. You know, um,
I killed an animal in my last one, and no one's complained just yet. So
what was it, a dog?
it was a dog, and it was in
Uh,
the very first proper scene. Yep.
I remember. Have you seen the John Wick movies?
Yes.
So I remember a comedian talking about the John Wick movies. Like, well, it's a good movie, but like in it, a guy kills John Wick's dog, and he kills like 3,800 people. He's like, I thought that was a little unrealistic. And then I had a dog. And I'm like, dude, I'd totally do that.
Yeah. No, thankfully no one's tried to kill me just yet for that. It was quite a brief scene, but it was so I wrote a book called Your Loved Ones Will Die First, and I wanted it to be just a hardcore, basically middle finger. And I got three awesome writers to contribute chapters to it. So Stuart Bray, Ryan Harding, Megan Stockton each contributed a scene to it. And I kind of challenged them to just write the most deranged, wildest, uncensored, unexpurgated, violent, crazy scene that they possibly could. And we all tried to pull the stops out. And if you're going to do that and there's a dog, it's probably going to die.
Well, if it's a good story, like John Wick is a good story, this is a good story
Oh,
and he
yeah.
kills it, then, yeah, that's really sad they killed the dog, but like, look at what happened. Like, it helped the story progress. I think it's like when they did that, like, third version of I Am Legend, which, if you read I Am Legend, I think it's an awesome story, but they just, nobody captures it as a movie. Like it was the Omega Man, it was like the Mega Man was probably the closest they got to it. And then they did that, fairly recent one with Will Smith. And my point was they kill a dog in that. You're like, dude, you kill a dog, it is a crappy movie. What the fuck?
That's the rule. Don't kill a dog unless it's in a really good movie or good book, I guess.
Yeah, it's like if it moves the plot forward, then I think I think it's appropriate. It's not cool, but it's appropriate.
Yeah.
All right, so do you have
No.
a personal website that people can go to?
Well, I'm most active on Facebook, essentially. I mean, I'm on TikTok and I'm on Instagram as well. But if anyone ever wants to connect with me, basically, yeah, just Jonathan Butcher on Facebook is fine. I like even author pages. I don't really think that they're as popular as they once were. I think that one of the good things about being an indie author is that you can be a bit more personable and familiar with people. So
Yeah,
a
the
lot of folks,
algorithms
including
change
myself,
all the
operate just
time.
through
So you're like,
Facebook.
oh, this was the shit, and then you're like, then everyone says, oh yeah, that's not anymore. You're like, fuck.
Yeah. Now, just my regular personal profile on Facebook is probably the best way to get in touch if you want just a chat or if you want signed copies of my books or anything like that. Yeah, hit me up on
Yeah, that's what I
Facebook.
was going to mention. So if they want to sign copies, you go to Facebook, or you'll be in the States. There's a rare opportunity to meet this guy in person.
Absolutely.
So come see him, buy his books, have him sign shit, and give him money. Indie authors need it.
Exactly, we sure do. And yeah, I look forward to meeting you there, man. That'll be great.
Okay, awesome, dude. All right. Well, I knew you got to go, so sorry to cut it short, but thank you very much for being on this.
Thanks so much for having me, Dan. Great to meet you.
All right, you too.